Welcome back to Always Moving Forward. As you see today, we don't have Harmony with us. Harmony is in the process of doing his new movie, so he's getting ready for that. He'll be filming with Wesley Snipes and Samuel L. Jackson coming up this January. So he's taking care of that. So in the meantime, we talked about bringing in new guests from different industries. So today I have Judge James Kerbow.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning. I'm glad that you were able to join us.
Yeah, thank you for taking time to talk to me.
Yeah, it was pretty interesting. We got to sit in court and watch some pretty interesting cases. It was an eye opener for some of the things that happened. Today we're just going to talk about kind of where you started, where you grew up. We want to kind of get to know you. Get to know more about you. You grew up with a mother who was a judge.
I did.
You grew up with a dad who was the chief of police.
Yes, sir.
So that's got to be an interesting childhood.
It certainly has its times.
Right. So we're going to talk about that. Then we're going to also talk about, the point that you made the decision to become a judge yourself. And then some of the things that you're working on. And, we'll talk about some of the things that you faced, when you made the decision to become a judge. Some of the good things, maybe some of the bad things, and then we'll give some advice to our audience who, are looking to pursue a career in the legal field. So, with that, tell us a little bit about you growing up.
Well, again, I really appreciate you taking the time to visit with me. A little about me. So my name is James Kerbow, just like you mentioned, and I am born and raised right here in Louisville. I was born in Louisville Hospital, just a stone's throw away from the courthouse here. So I'm born and raised here. I'm a product of LISD.
Wow.
All K through 12.
All three of my kids would do LISD.
And mine too. Yeah, I've got two that are currently in LISD. One that's not quite old enough yet. So, right. But we want him to slow down. He's grown up a little too fast.
Yeah, they grow up a lot really quick.
My oldest is 17. Yeah, he's a junior in high school. So I certainly understand that and know what that's like going through. Oh man, they get too big too quick. Unfortunately, just the older I get, right, the shorter time gets.
Yeah,
and that's certainly been the case for the last few years. But I grew up here in Louisville. My mother it was a unique childhood. I have a younger sister who's about 3 years younger than I am, and she and I, as we were growing up, my mother was the judge, justice of the peace here in Precinct 3, Denton County, covering Louisville, Highland Village, and Copper Canyon. Yeah. My father was a police officer for Louisville, and he had started in the PD in 1978.
Oh wow!
Yeah, he started. I want to say it was approximately August of '78, and the last 11 years of his career, when Chief McFadden retired in 2010 or 2011, forgive me about the exact date there, but I want to say it was about 2010. That's when my father, it was maybe a little bit before then, that's when my father became police chief. Right. So now to have a mother who's a judge, father who's chief of police, and I was, late high school, maybe even into early college, there were certainly some unique deals there where I couldn't go anywhere in town without right. folks knowing who I was. Right. A trip to Home Depot, trip to the store, didn't matter where you were. A restaurant, forget the restaurants.
Right, everybody knew.
Well, and anytime we went to a restaurant with them, it was even that much worse. It was always, oh, hey, you're Russ and Becky's kid.
Right.
Yeah, you're the chief's son or you're the judge's son. It was a lot of that for a long time.
So that was hard to get away with anything here.
Yeah, it was. Folks pretty much knew who you were and where you were.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then the tables started to turn some years later. The older that I got, right. And more established in the community, the more folks started saying things to them. They're, you're James's parents.
Right.
So that kind of changed a little bit too.
So it flip-flopped.
It did. It flip-flopped a little bit on them.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So at what point did you, when you were growing up, did you decide that you wanted to become a judge?
It was well after being an adult. In fact, it wasn't until 2016, really.
Oh, wow.
So it's an interesting story that it all starts with my career after I was finished with school in 2007. I had still worked for the same job for Morris Salerno, who's actually my campaign treasurer.
Oh, wow.
He owns a restaurant in Highland Village called Biztech now, but it was called the Grotto for several years.
Okay.
So I worked there, waiting tables, bartending, catering, office management, you name it. I did everything in that restaurant.
Wow.
And that's where I fell in love with serving people, taking care of people.
Right.
Fast forward, I started studying hospitality management in school because, again, it was all about taking care of people.
Right.
Fast forward there, I said, well, what's another way I can take care of folks, but on a larger scale? So I actually wound up getting into property management.
Wow.
Where I was leasing apartments at a property. This was October of 2008 when I started with them, a company called UDR.
Okay.
And I worked with them until my very last day when I got elected here.
Really?
So really, I've had two jobs my whole life. I've done a couple other things here and there.
Right.
But those are my two really long-lasting jobs that I had. And in that career of the property management side, that's when I actually had to go to court to be able to file for evictions.
Right.
Because it was a part of it. So I was watching our property managers, our assistant managers, watching them go to court to represent the property. Simply put, as a business function where we had to go through the eviction. If somebody wasn't paying rent, then we had to get that apartment released. And at that time, I was doing the financials, the business side of it. So that's when I really started learning how to go about the eviction process, what was required by law for the Texas Property Code,
Right.
notices, petition filings, and everything in between. And I got to see a number of judges, none of which were my mother. So I never had to come to court in Denton County. It was always Dallas County or Collin County.
Okay. Well, so do you remember that moment that you decided to change from, doing property management and, working in restaurants into going into law?
Yeah, going into really public service.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember it vividly. My mother in 2016 knew my father was going to retire in 2018 as soon as he hit 40 years.
Wow.
That was his number, 40 years, and then retirement. Well,
Right.
She said, well, yeah, I'd like to join you. My term is up December 31st of 2018.
Right.
So she publicly announced that she was retiring, or going to not retire, but not going to seek a re-election. She wasn't going to run again for office.
Right. Right.
And I remember after hearing her say that, hey, is this something I can do? Again, I had been in other JP courts. I had seen other judges, their demeanors, what it was like. And, I always knew, my entire life had been in public service.
Right.
That is what I was built for. It was what I was built for, what I was raised for, what I was around, what my experience and my knowledge was.
Right.
And I always fell in love with service. It explains why I loved property management and why I loved the service industry.
Right.
Because I loved being there for people. So I asked her, is that something I can do? And it was that conversation that night, because it was at our home in Little Elm at the time.
Right.
Mine and my wife's first house in Little Elm. And it was like watching a light go off. Yeah, you could absolutely do this. In fact, you might even be really good at it.
Wow.
And I said, okay, what's next?
Right.
How do we move forward?
And what was it? What was the process of becoming a judge and getting elected?
It's different for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
I'll definitely say that. There's a lot of folks that have previously been on city council, or they've previously had law degrees, or they've practiced law, or they've been in police. We have a lot of police that become judges. We have a lot of clerks who work for the judges. They see a judge retire, they want to run for judge.
Okay.
So there are so many unique stories out there. We have over 820 judges, JPs across Texas.
Wow.
And each story is different and unique, and I love to hear what each one of them have gone through.
Right.
Whether it's a new judge now or if it's someone who's been there for 20, 30 years.
Yeah, I bet a lot of them have some really good stories to tell.
There's great stories. There are some great stories out there. All different types of folks, walks of life,
Right.
all different backgrounds, and each unique experience and story just, it's special to hear. It's special to know about, to be a part of, to get to
Right.
know your peers. And why that's so important is because we all learn from one another as well.
Right.
We do. We share stories, we share experiences, and oftentimes that helps us to come back to our respective communities to do even better,
Right.
to better serve our communities. So how it started for me was, okay, what do I got to get? What do I have to do? And I've always been involved actively in the Republican Party for a long time here in Denton County, since my very first campaign that I worked on, which was stuffing mailers for Senator Jane Nelson's campaign.
Okay.
Senator Nelson is a friend of our family. We've known her for many years, and in fact, her youngest daughter and I, same age, we grew up together, and there we were as little kids, just stuffing envelopes and mailers.
Right.
Because back then it was, you were putting signs on those wooden stakes. Now we have metal ones, the thin
Right.
metal ones.
Right.
So you're nailing them in there. Otherwise, you've got the mailers that have to go out, or the door hangers where you go door to door and you put door hangers out there. So I have been involved in a number of campaigns at a young age, and then started to get back very, very active in the Republican Party in Denton County.
Right.
To let them know, hey, this is, I ran for precinct chair. I became a delegate to the GOP convention in 2016 to represent our congressional and Senate district.
Right.
And then, you know what? You have to live in the precinct for a certain period of time. So I sold my house in Little Elm, uprooted my entire family, and I moved us back home here to Louisville.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was, we got lucky, found a house that's a quarter mile from the house that I grew up in.
Right.
So very familiar with the neighborhood, the community, and it has been the biggest blessing. It was a high-risk move because you have to run for office.
Right. Now, I was going to say, it's got to, that's a big risk to take.
Yep.
Because it's not like you just, go in for a job interview and get the job.
Right.
There, you have to actually be elected. So now you got to stay a certain amount of time so you make the qualifications. And then you got to pray that people will elect you.
Yeah.
So that's a huge risk.
It's like a job interview, but with thousands of people.
Right.
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 So for them to know who I am, and a lot of folks did, because there's a lot of folks here that have been in Louisville or around this community for a long time.
Right.
Teachers, former students, friends, their family, their folks, to let them know, hey, this is what my intentions are. But it really, moving my family back to Louisville wasn't that big a risk because I knew we wanted to be back here anyway.
Right.
It was a perfect set of circumstances that brought us back home.
Okay.
Because again, this is my home. This is where I was born and raised.
Right.
So again, coming back, I wanted to be back here regardless. It just so happened that the campaign was a success.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. So, what are the things you learned on the way?
Oh, how long do we have? I learned a lot on the way.
Right.
Learned about patience.
Right.
Learned certainly about hard work, boots on the ground, going door to door, because we ran a very fiscally conservative campaign. I didn't have a lot of money.
Right.
Yeah, I was in my early 30s, 31, when I found out I even wanted to run.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't have a lot saved up. We had a young family. I had a young son, 2 young boys, excuse me. And, it was some strain on the family. So learning how to balance that hard work and being out every weekend going door to door,
Right.
going to all these events. Oh, there are events all the time.
Right.
But learning what it's like to get your name out there, not just in the party where your name is on the ballot,
Right.
but also your name in the community. Who knows you? I wanted to make sure everybody, Republican, Democrat, Independent, didn't matter who you are or what you vote.
Right.
Selfishly, I wanted everybody's vote.
Right.
And still do.
Right. Exactly.
And how do I make sure these folks know me, know my message,
Right.
and know that I'm the best one that is going to represent them fairly and accurately while upholding the law in the courtroom. How do I share that? How do I share how my demeanor is going to be?
Right.
And these are all things that greatly, I mean, they can stress you out. So you have to learn how to, balance and manage your mental health, your diet. Because I was eating a lot of fast food. I had put on a lot of weight during the campaign days because I had, 5 minutes here to eat. Let's get back at it. Plus, I was working my regular job.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow.
Which was full time and then some.
Yeah.
Because I was always on call, 24 hours a day for 2 years.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's part of the thing that people don't realize is that even when you're chasing a goal, a major goal like what you were chasing, and the importance of actually having to get out and meet people and show up at these events, you still got bills to pay.
Right.
In the middle of that, so
and family time.
And family time. So you're trying to balance, three things at once. So yeah, that's difficult. It's definitely difficult to do. But also, a lot of people think you got to stop doing what you're doing in order to pursue all that. Sometimes you can't stop what you're doing. Sometimes you still have to keep that job until you're able to reach your goal.
I couldn't stop. Yeah. I had to keep food on the table, clothes on my family's back, and Jessica, my wife, she's got a full-time job and career as well.
Right.
Having her support was paramount.
Right.
There are a lot of things. If looking back, that being over 3 years ago now, almost 4. There's a lot I wish I could go back and tell new me running.
Right.
What to expect, because there were a lot of times where I wasn't home. There were a lot of times where, I'm eating by myself in my truck, trying to again go to these events, trying to get out there, get my name out there.
Right.
But I knew that the harder I work now, that it would be well worth it. That the reward was going to pay off if I could continue to keep this energy and momentum up.
Right.
Because that's what I had going for me. My 2 or 3 other opponents, they all had way more money than I did.
Oh, well.
They were well established in their lives as attorneys. They were well established in their lives and careers, and they outspent me. I mean, pennies to the dollar.
Right.
Pennies is what I had to their dollar. It was kind of learning on the fly, being able to adapt with change, but keeping up that high level of energy, I think is what helped too.
This is one of the things that I'm curious about too. You talk about adapting with change. The way the court system was set up prior to the whole COVID pandemic, and how has it changed since then?
We still have virtual courts that we can hear.
Right.
For the most part, we're back in person. Everything is live. We're here in the courtroom now.
Right.
We had court today that you were able to sit in and watch, and we are live, and we've been live the moment that the OCA, the Office of Court Administration, allowed us to come back in safely with COVID protocols. That's why we space people out.
Right.
It's why we have certain lines that folks go through, and it's why we keep people further apart here in the courtroom.
Right.
We still want, and if folks want to wear a mask, absolutely wear your mask.
Right.
If you don't want to, we're not going to force you unless we feel like there's if I feel like there's some kind of imminent threat, if somebody's coughing quite a bit, or if there's some real red flags.
Right.
We might require everybody to wear a mask, and we'll provide one to everybody. Since then, we've been blessed, haven't had to do that. Haven't had really any issues, knock on wood.
Right.
But if someone reaches out and says, "Hey, Judge, we're immune compromised, even with the vaccine," hey, okay, let's do virtual hearing.
Right.
So we have virtual hearings, and Zoom has been a very big component of that. It's been very, very helpful because now other judges can even hear cases for other judges across not just the county, the state. If one judge is backed up, another one could possibly help out hearing cases for that judge.
Okay.
So Zoom has been a very helpful and useful tool.
Right. Well, cool. One of the things I noticed too during the with you doing court today is I was impressed with the sympathy you had for both sides. I think that as both of them presented their case, I thought that you were really fair about, it's an eviction court, so that's already a tough situation for both parties to be in.
Right.
And just the way you handled it, not only were you fair, you were by, what the law says.
Period.
But you also were sympathetic too, and were able to, you were showing that too to the defendant who was being evicted. We had some that come in that was was going through a lot of rough times. So to see that a judge out there being sympathetic to that, that to me that's awesome.
Thank you.
And then at the same time, you're still being fair to the plaintiff. So I think that was really cool. So my next question would be well, first of all, let's talk about your committee.
Mm-hmm.
So the committee that you have, you're the chairperson of.
Yeah. So there's first of all, I want to thank you for your kind words there. Number one, it's all about the law.
Right.
So the moment I put that robe on, I sit down behind the bench, and we're here to begin. Were the laws followed?
Right.
And many of those first initial questions that I ask folks, again, it's following, in this case, Texas Property Code.
Right.
It's following, what does your contract say? It's following a number of things. So we go to those. Is it following the 44th and 45th order of the Supreme Court?
Right.
I start with instructions. I start with just different information for folks to try to get all that information out there so it's fair and accurate.
Right.
And that's what I try to do with the law as well. I go in there and make sure the law is being upheld while still being compassionate for both parties. Again, I'm not here to pick favorites or
Right.
to pick sides. I'm here for a lawful ruling.
Right.
And you can give a lawful ruling and still show that you're human.
Right.
And that you have compassion or empathy and empathy.
Right.
It's not always easy when you hear some of the stories in court.
Yeah.
Again, 800 plus judges in Texas.
Right.
I promise you, those judges have absolutely heard far worse than what was heard today.
Right.
It's very, very, it can be very difficult to hear those stories.
Right.
And still know that you have to follow the law.
Right.
You have to follow the rules. And that everybody also has an appeal period as well.
Right.
So those are all things we have to follow. But going into the committee, so this year, I was appointed as chair by President Constable Matt Wiley from the JPCA, that's the Justice of the Peace and Constable Association here in Texas.
Right.
So they appoint the committee, the chair of the committee, and committee members, and these folks are responsible for getting the curriculum built and designed for the Texas Justice Court Training Center to implement and teach and train not just new judges, but current judges.
Right.
So everybody has to have their annual 20 hours.
Right.
So, for example, we went down to College Station this year. I was just appointed by Constable Matt Wiley, who's the current president. Tarrant County Judge, Justice of the Peace, Sergio De Leon, is going to be the coming president. He's the president-elect right now. Okay. So every year they swap. Okay. Constable, JP, right. Who the president is. So should Judge De Leon choose to keep me as the chair of the committee, certainly I'd be honored to be the chair, to continue to be the chair, but I'd also absolutely respect his decision if that's not the case. Right. Either way it goes, I've had an absolute great time meeting with these other judges to help build this curriculum. And then we have staff attorneys. Mm-hmm. We have a director, Thea Whalen, who's incredible, and all of our staff attorneys are amazing, where we build curriculum specifically to teach, again, new judges, but the curriculum we just designed was to help to get the 20 hours of required education. Okay. Attorneys have the same thing every year. They're just called CLEs. Right. So attorneys have to keep up their education as well.
Right, for certifications or?
Yes, sir. So I get to travel to all the different schools and locations. In November, I was in November I was in Galveston at the San Luis Hotel.
Okay.
In December I was in San Marcos, which is where Texas State University is.
Right.
And that's who helps to do our grants and our funding comes through Texas State. But we have great facilities over there. It was a new judges class, so it was a stage 1 new judges school with about 20 JPs or so that are brand new.
Oh, wow.
Yep. So I love seeing these new judges and going through that training and that coaching process.
On average, how big are the classes normal?
Depends. This was an off year, so smaller, about 20.
Right.
During the midterm elections, like in 2022, we have midterm elections coming up. Typically, that's the governor's race, right?
Right.
So from there, in 2018, that was the last governor's race that we had. That was our biggest class, and I think we had like 130.
Oh, wow.
And keep in mind, I was a baby judge there too. I was a new
Right.
judge as well.
Right.
So I believe it was about 130 to 140, somewhere in that ballpark. Someone's going to come back and fact check me later and say,
Right.
no, there was 155 or
There was
something.
more
like
than
that.
100.
Right, it was more than 100
Right.
because they had to separate us into different size groups.
Right.
Larger counties like Denton, Collin,
Yeah.
Dallas, Tarrant, Bear, Harris, Travis.
They just do it by jurisdiction or?
No, because we're all the same jurisdiction.
Oh, okay.
They do it by the size of the county. So Denton County is a major county.
Okay.
Now we're not as big as Harris County or Dallas County or Tarrant,
Right.
but we're nothing to scoff at. We've got almost 1 million folks that are here in Denton County. We've got large, busy dockets. Some of those smaller rural counties, those JPs are part-time.
Right.
Some of them, they're just there for inquests or magistrations.
Right.
And it's a part-time deal where they have to keep a full-time career as an attorney, as a realtor, as a rancher, you name it.
Wow.
There are all different kinds of careers out there. And those are the folks that sometimes really need that extra support, knowing that, hey, they're in a rural town that has maybe 5,000 residents.
Right.
They don't see stuff like we do as often as we do. So
Right.
how are we also reaching out to them to make sure that they stay involved?
Right. That's good stuff.
Yeah. So that's this next coming up one will be big. So I hope I get to continue to serve as the
Right.
as the chair of the education committee because it's been a huge honor. Judge Rick Hill asked me back in December, said, "Hey, in January we're going to have an opening."
Right.
January 21, so this is December 2020.
Right.
He says, we'll have an opening in January 21. We'd love to have you on the committee. And Judge Rick Hill's out of College Station,
Okay.
right? So
Right.
he is the A&M judge. His office is on campus.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's neat. We got to go see him down there recently. But it is, there's so much involved.
Yeah.
And it's so exciting. I was honored just to be appointed to the committee.
Right.
But then, after serving just a few 6 months in June, to be appointed the chair of the committee,
Right.
really just humbling.
That's good.
So I've had to really work hard to earn the trust of my peers, to earn the trust of our staff attorneys, to earn the trust and continue to earn the trust of the JPCA, who is responsible for appointing the chair, to show them, hey, I'm ready for this, and we have a great education and curriculum that we're going to build, that we are building, to help make sure the judges have all the judges across Texas have the necessary resources
Right.
to be able to best serve their communities.
That sounds like a really great program they have too. So, did you have anything like that when you were trying to become a judge, or?
And not until afterward, when I found out that I had won my general election in November of 2018,
Right.
it was just a couple of weeks later that I went to Stage 1 new judge school.
Oh, wow.
And that's where I got to meet a lot of my my JP friends and colleagues from different counties all over Texas. And building and cultivating those relationships has been a lot of fun.
Oh, wow. Cool. So, as being a judge and going through the whole process you went through, for someone who's trying to become a judge or break into the legal aspects of this field, what kind of advice would you give them?
What kind of advice would I give somebody trying to run for JP?
Yes.
That's that is a loaded question. there's a lot of advice out there. First and foremost, you've got to put the law first, regardless of your opinion. It's about the law. When legislation changes, it may change how you rule behind the bench. You also need to know what you're getting into. When you get into the public eye, you have to really mind your P's and Q's. You have to be on at all times. There's no days off. And it's all about putting the community first. If you can do these things and you have that service first mentality, I think you could absolutely be successful. We can teach you. The education committee, the Texas Justice Court Training Center, they can teach you how to be a judge. Your clerks can help you teach you to be a judge. What you need to do is first ask yourself, am I ready for this? Is this the right thing for me? And then once you've decided, hey, absolutely, this is what I need to do, you've got to begin that process of getting your name out there,
Right.
having folks know who you are, what your message is,
Right.
and getting that support. But just be prepared for hard work and to try to raise money, because these campaigns aren't free. They aren't cheap.
Right.
So you got to know your strengths and really play to your strengths.
That's one of the things we cover too in our book. One of the chapters is know what you know and know what you don't know.
Right.
Because a lot of people feel like they have to know everything about everything.
Yeah.
And a lot of it isn't knowing everything about everything. Is be good at what you know, and then be able to recognize the things you don't know, and that's where you get people to support you who are good at those things. So,
and adaptability, being able to change, I think, is very important too. And what I mean by being able to change, being able to adjust on the fly.
Right.
Just like what we had to do with COVID here. I was a new judge in 2019, so it was my first year to try to get, acclimated.
Right.
And then 2020 hit.
Yeah.
You got to change everything you know.
Right.
On the fly, and no one can help you.
That was a major change. I mean.
Oh, huge.
Yeah.
Still feeling the effects of it today.
Right.
Here, 3-4 days away from 2022.
Right.
So, being able to adapt, to make those necessary changes, to pivot. Don't be so rigid. Be open to a little bit of change.
Yeah. So the law changes constantly, anyways.
At least every 2 years.
Right. So you always got to be open to change. So if you're someone who's not open to change, it's gonna be a very difficult journey for you. But let me ask you, what's some of the things that you would suggest that they not do while they're running, and some of the things that you suggest that they really focus on?
Things to not do. Don't get out of your lane. And I'll let you interpret what that means. And definitely don't pretend like you know everything, because you don't. I don't know everything. None of us know everything. If you know everything, maybe this ain't it for you. Yeah, that's probably the biggest part of what not to do. And things to do. Work hard. Work hard. Put your community first. Always be thinking and planning, what's my next step? What's my next move? Is this good for the office? And put the public first. Is this good for the public? I'll give you an example. I was the only bilingual candidate. Now, am I completely fluent in Spanish? No, I need a lot of help with some words, conjugating verbs and that sort of thing. But my Spanish is very, very good. The first trial we had this morning was all in Spanish.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah. Whenever the gentleman came in, and you switched and started speaking in Spanish, I was like.
It throws a lot of people. It throws a lot of people off if they've not heard me do that before.
Right.
But make no mistake, I'm not perfect in Spanish. I understand significantly more than what I can speak.
Right.
But I love the supportive team that I have here. They always are helping me to learn, to continue to learn. But that, me speaking Spanish to both of those parties who were both fluent in Spanish,
Right.
helped that case move forward quicker and more efficient.
Right. And that was a difficult case to try to.
It was not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a lot of elements to it that needed to be uncovered,
Right.
but we were able to get there.
So, I was pretty impressed with that one. That was pretty good.
But yeah, find what you're good at, work hard at it, and really keep that up. But also work on the things that you're not so good at, because those are going to need help and need development as well.
So, and that's, you bring up a good point too, is that even when you reach your goal, some people have certain careers that they're trying to achieve. You've reached that, that goal of being a judge, but you still have to constantly learn new things. Not only are you learning the law, but you're trying to go beyond and learn another language. But there's always going to be something that you could be doing to make yourself better. So
Right.
It's not like once you hit that goal that's it. Once you've hit that goal, you want to make sure that that you're continuously growing in that role. And so, for you to be learning Spanish and doing the things that you do, that just shows a lot that, how much you respect this role and how much that you want to grow as a judge, which is, was an honor for me to see, and it was pretty impressive too. So, so I want to thank you for being on the show today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
This has been a great time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm glad you took the time out. It was very interesting to watch the cases. I have a background in associates in paralegal studies and a bachelor in criminal justice.
Okay.
So, be able to come in and actually see a judge, doing their job, at work, and, it was just, it was mind-opening. And then seeing some of the cases and the way that you handled it was really impressive. So,
Well, thank you.
and I want to thank you for allowing us to come out and, witness that and, to be able to interview you.
Well, and the court's open. JP Court is an open court, so anybody can come in at any time, sit down, watch, observe. The only thing we cannot do in court while trials are going on
Right.
is record,
Right.
because we're not a court of record.
Right.
So the JP Court, it's to not be a court of record. We don't follow every single lined out rule of the Texas Rules of Evidence, for example. So we're not having to dot every I and cross every T.
Right.
We can make sure that we get to the bottom of it a little quicker, a little faster, a little easier,
Right.
and let those folks who are self-represented come in here, have their day in court, have their word in court,
Right.
be able to share it without making folks jump through hoops and financially spend what they might have to spend on an attorney.
Right.
In higher courts, they may have to make sure that everything's going the way that it should. But in justice court, to make that justice that have equal and fair access
Right.
to justice,
Right.
that's what it's about. So that's why there's no recordings in the JP court, no
Right.
cameras, photography, video, audio.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah.
But you want to come observe? Come on in. Every day, Monday through Thursday, court's at 9 a.m. Usually that goes till about 11. Some days a little sooner, right?
Right.
Some dockets are smaller than others.
Right.
Some dockets are longer than others.
Right.
So each one's a little bit different, but you can always call our court or court administrator, and we'd be happy to give you our schedule and what we have going on to see if that's something that interests you.
Right. And I highly suggest it too. If this is something that you're looking to pursue, this would benefit you greatly to be able to come in and sit in on a court case and kind of look and see what your future job is going to be. What you're going to have to do.
Whatever county you live in, if it's
Right.
if it's in Houston or Dallas or Fort Worth or wherever you may be, maybe it's another state.
Thank you for being on the show. I enjoyed our time together. I mean, it was like I said, it was mind blowing kind of to see some of the things that that you had faced today. It was an honor to watch you preside over the cases. I know, like I said, some of the cases seemed a little difficult, and I was really impressed with how you handled that. Handled these cases with the compassion while still following the law. So thank you for taking the time out to talk to us.
Parks, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate y'all taking time out of your day to watch, to observe, and of course sit down with me. It's been a real treat to be here with you, and man, reach out to me anytime. I'd love to have you back. It's an honor to serve you.
All right, cool. I appreciate it. All right, well, thank you guys, and we'll see you guys next time on Always Moving Forward.